everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody's doing well. Happy Sunday. It is July the 13th, and oh my gosh, what a week it's been. We have had like every other day kind of like heat waves, if you will. Yesterday, with a feels like temperature of like 45 degrees Celsius, which is like 100 and some odd. Just absolutely disgusting with the humidity, and we were under a tornado watch and heavy rain and flooding, and anyway, it's been like that on and off all week. So one day would be excessively hot and humid, the next day would be like, relatively normal, and then again another hot day. The weather is like up and down like a toilet seat. And of course, we had a full moon, and we had the July 7th portal, and all of that kind of messed me up a little bit. I got my days and nights all mixed up. I couldn't figure out when to sleep, when to be awake. I hurt my back and my neck, or I slept funny or something, I don't know. And so I was just a mess all week long. So I apologize that you didn't see any videos, but I was in no condition to be reading on anything or anyone, so I apologize. So, as you can see by the thumbnail, the elephant in the room. So I want to tell you a little story while I do this reading, in hopes that it can be beneficial to someone out there who might be listening, but also to point out that I think that we all have that proverbial elephant in the room that we try to, sort of make blend in with the decor, you know what I mean? So it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. I think that all of us have that or have had that, right? And I think this can apply to many situations. And so, with that being said, thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. I truly appreciate your support. So, I don't know what cards I'm going to use for this. A lot of it will be me just sort of figuring it out as I go. So, thank you in advance for your patience. We're going to start with the spellcasting oracle. And so, I'd like to rewind the clock a little bit and start with a little bit of context. Obviously, this is, entertainment purposes only, general reading. Many, many, many years ago, I believe it was 2001, I found myself in a position of being asked to stand before a congregation in a chapel at a funeral home and conduct the proceedings as if I was, I don't know, like a minister. Well, not as a minister, but like how a minister would perform that function is the only way that I know how to describe it. I was asked by my family members who had suffered the ultimate loss of a loved one, and they said at that time that I was the strongest person that they knew. So I had to read poems and letters and sort of, coordinate everything. And I sat there and I stared out at that crowd of my family and my friends. And the pain was present. And I felt it. There was a part in the service where where the family had chose a song to play. And I sat there next to the casket, staring at my family's faces that were filled with grief. And I listened to this song. I will never forget that moment. It was the longest, 3 minutes of my life. And just the other day, well, I should also add that song was written and sung by a wonderful, amazingly gifted Canadian artist named Sarah McLachlan. And every time I hear that song, I cry. I don't know if it's because the song reminds me of that moment, if I remember the pain that I visualized when I looked out in that moment, the pain that greeted my look, my gaze. If it makes me think of my loved one that I lost, or just a combination of the totality of the heaviness of that moment. I have never been able to listen to that song without just sobbing my heart out. Now you would think that knowing that fact that I can't listen to that song because it transports me to a place of sadness and upset, that would lead me to some sort of a conclusion that there was something about that whole time period that really affected me deeply. And that's my elephant. Fast forward many years later, and my mother is sick and eventually passes. And my whole life as I know it comes crashing down around me. I can't figure out what's going on. I go to the doctors, many appointments, counseling, therapy, and I am diagnosed with anxiety and panic disorder. And the other day, July 1st, is Canada's, birthday. And Sarah McLachlan did that song live as part of the celebrations, and I watched it and I cried, as I do every time. The difference is that 20 some odd years later, I had a thought. And that thought was that I had been working for years under the false impression that my anxiety panic disorder came from or resulted from the grief of the totality of my mother's sickness and death. And finding out the day after my mom passed that my father was terminal. I started thinking back when I heard that song and a thought popped into my mind. I started thinking back to moments in time when I now recognize signs of anxiety. But because I was the strongest person that everyone knew, I tamped it down, I pushed it aside, moved it to the back, and I just kept forging forward. I am certain that every single person that's listening to this, if you've gotten this far, thank you, has had that happen, where you have had to discount your own feelings, thoughts, and emotions for the betterment of other things and other people. That's what I knew to do. I think that's what human beings know to do, right? We just want to get on with it, right? No one wants to carry that kind of weight on their shoulders, on their back, that unnecessary stress and strain. No one wants to be held hostage by their thoughts or by their feelings. No one wants to be held hostage by anxiety or, emotional trauma. Nobody wants that. And if you're in a position where you deal with it, fantastic. That's amazing. If you're not in a position, for a multitude of reasons, which, that's a whole other video, that you don't deal with the elephant in the room, even some odd 20 years later, you can have a moment of realization. And the moment of realization provides you with so much. Of course, it'd be different for every individual who experiences it. But, we talk about, like, the silver lining or the reason or, the light at the end of the tunnel, whatever, verbiage you want to put on it. And it was all those things in that moment when I had that thought that, you know what, it never made sense to me that I reacted the way that I did, because it wasn't just that. It was a combination of many things that led up to it. And I just cracked. I literally cracked. That was my tower moment. When my foundation had a serious, threatening crack in it, and I would have to make changes in my life that would ultimately serve me better. It didn't make any sense at the time. So when I had that thought, I felt relief. I felt a release. Another piece of painful history that I had let go of. And why? For my well-being. For my well-being. The proverbial elephant in the room, the weight, the stress, the anxiety, the trauma, the hurt, the pain. Let's face it, none of us want to go there. None of us want to dive in and deal. Because if we did, we would have already done that. We wouldn't be carrying it, right? It's scary to face those kinds of things. But every time you have a step forward, every time you feel some form of advancement or progress, your well-being is being, pushed to the forefront or, pushed upwards. It's coming to the surface. Look at what just flipped out the backside. New beginnings. Excuse me. Now, does this mean that I'm cured? I'm all better? No. But what it does mean is that it gives me hope. I can see that elephant. I'm not afraid of the elephant. In many ways, the elephant in the room makes me feel normal, right? Because, like I said, I think everyone has an elephant in the room. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, okay, Kelly, so what does all this mean? That's an excellent question. I don't know the answer to that question. But here's what I do know. What I do know is that oftentimes that hamster wheel in the back of my mind allows the self-sabotage and the negative self-talk to overpower me. I then go down this spiral of blaming myself, for the state of my life and the woulda, shoulda, couldas, and all of the things. But we have a moment like we had, or I had the other day, when I heard this song and it took me back to that time, and then that thought popped into my head that it was a totality of events that led me to the break, my tower moment. And now, sitting on the other side of it, I am working on my well-being. I am each day, each week, each month, each year have been discovering a way to start fresh, a way to start new, a way to look at things with hope and opportunity. I still very much live in a state of anxiousness and fear. That's not a secret, nor do I think it's a surprise. But I am so far from where I was. And we have these moments where we sort of embrace the elephant in the room, appreciate the elephant in the room, and figure out a way to coexist with the elephant in the room that is not detrimental, right? So 2 cards flipped out when I said, here's what I know. We've got travel, which is the journey that I've been on. The journey that all of us go on when we first think about things, then recognize the thing, and then try to sort the thing out, right? Which is the elephant in the room. And then the prosperity, which is the success. To me, it is embracing the journey and the growth. Just recognizing, like looking over there and going, there's the elephant right there, is such a major accomplishment. If you've never been in this position, then you won't know, and I'm happy for you if you've never been in a position of that nature. But if you have been, then you understand this card better than anything. This realization of the growth that you have made, because now you can see the thing, makes you feel like you're wearing a suit of armor, right? Makes you feel protected and embraced, and that gives you encouragement to keep moving forward. So no matter who you are, no matter what your elephant may be, or may be about, be kind to yourself. Don't lose patience. Don't lose faith. Don't lose hope. Don't hide from the elephant. Work with the elephant. Make the elephant your friend. Until such time as the elephant isn't squeezing your oxygen out of the room. Friendship, right? Making friends with the elephant. It's like making friends, it's probably not the right word, but making friends with the things that you fear, right? Normalizing it as opposed to being against it or afraid of it, right? It's a coming together as opposed to a pulling apart. I'm just going to throw 1 or 2 more cards here. Healing, because that's what it's all about. It's all about healing. One step in front of the other. Progress, growth, all lead to prosperity. Healing is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And for anyone who's interested, I'll leave a link in the description box below the video of Sarah McLachlan's beautiful, beautiful song on it at the Canada Day celebration. The song is called In the Arms of an Angel. I hope that if you have an elephant in your room, that this is your outcome. I hope you enjoyed this reading. Thank you for listening. Thank you for allowing me to share something that's very, very personal to me. I appreciate your support, as I said before, and I will see you when I see you next. And until then, I wish you many, many blessings. Mwah.